And we have some breaking news that's coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in an exclusive interview to PTI, said that there are many positive impacts from India's G20 presidency. Some are very close to his heart. So this is the statement that is coming in from the Prime Minister himself, who in an exclusive interview to PTI has said that many positive impacts are there from India's G20 presidency, and some of them are very close to his heart. He also said that it is going to be GDP-centric view of the world, and that is now changing to human-centric one. So this is the statement which is made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He said that the GDP-centric view of the world is now changing to human-centric one, and that India is playing the role of catalyst. He also said that India will be a developed nation by 2047, and corruption, casteism and communalism will have no place in our national life. We're being joined by our senior editor Pallavi Ghosh to tell us more about it. Pallavi, could you tell us more about what else did Prime Minister say in his exclusive interview?
So see, we also have to understand, obviously, the pitch is on the G20 summit, which is beginning on the 8th to the 10th in Delhi. And the big focus of the Prime Minister's interview was, one, obviously on the G20 summit, but also projected India as a country from which many people need to learn from, especially in the world sector. He began by talking about the fact that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas can become the slogan not just for India, but also for the world. The welfare concept of the world is something which can be taken from India. It is in that sense that he talks about the fact that every development project or economic policies in a country is not going to be restricted only one religion or one caste. It is actually meant for everyone. And therefore, he says caste hierarchy, communalism, all of this has no place as far as Indian ethos is concerned. And the world is watching India, and this is what India can offer to the world.
Also, Pallavi, he also said that GDP-centric view of the world is now changing to human-centric one, and India is playing the role of catalyst. Could you give us more context?
We also have to see one of the main positions and the main focus of the G20 summit is going to be on the economics of it all. This is going to be a G20 summit which is in the backdrop of a challenging time in the post-COVID era, and even the developed countries for that matter have been facing economic downturn. Recession has hit many of the countries, and the impact of recession is not just economically, it is also socially and the human angle, especially the COVID. And I remember the Prime Minister, when he talked about vaccine Maitri, he talked about the fact that at the end of the day, we don't only have to look at the economics, the finances of it. We have to look at the human angle. And so today, when India has the presidency of G20, it's going to start trashing out an economic policy. The focus is also going to be on the human angle, how you need to help each other. The world needs to help each other. The countries need to do that. And this whole idea of developed versus undeveloped, the developed countries not wanting to wait and only believing in their own development at the cost of the developing or the smaller countries should be seen as being unacceptable. And that's the context in which the Prime Minister talk about a humanitarian approach to world politics and economics.
All right, Pallavi, please stay with us. We are being joined by CNN News 18's Aman Sharma on this story. Aman, so ahead of the G20 summit, big remarks coming in from the Prime Minister himself, who's saying that there are going to be many positive impacts from India's G20 presidency. Could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I think the PM's words very clearly show that, the focus that India has put in the G20 presidency, not this presidency, perhaps the most widely held events in a country. They have been over 60 cities where over 200 events have been held regarding G20. So it was not just a Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore centric event. We had taken the G20 presidency to various tier 2 cities as well. Also, on the points of when he says that India, this has also led to a lot of development in the tier 2 countries because of the G20 event held there. The rise of the global south, the term that the PM uses, also has its imprint on the G20 presidency, and now we have the G20 summit coming up, with the Prime Minister's words coming just before the G20 leaders summit next week, in the coming week in Delhi, saying that the world now is changing to a human-centric approach on G20. India is playing the role of a catalyst. Also, I think putting across the PM's words, putting across a long-term view of India, a long-term plan, when he says that India today has a great chance and Indians have a great chance to lay the foundation for growth that will be remembered for the next 1,000 years. He also cites how India will be in the top 3 economies of the world in the near future, a point that PM has also made in Parliament very forcefully. Generally speaking about a larger mood of positivity in the country, mood where he's also spoken about that once the country was the world saw India as a country with 1 billion hungry stomachs. But now India is seen as somebody with 1 billion aspirational minds, 2 billion skilled hands. So the latest Niti Aayog report, which showed that a record number of people had come out of poverty. The PM has cited that report in Parliament as well. Also, the latest IT returns report which had come, which had showed that a lot number of people have risen from the lower middle class to the upper middle class. All these events, I think the PM is speaking about the larger mood of positivity and optimism in the country, and how the G20, be it the Chandrayaan-3 success, the G20 Leader Summit success, which is just upcoming, or be it the larger positivity messages from the Niti Aayog or from the IT report returns, or from the economy, which is growing very strong, perhaps one of the fastest growing economies in the world, even post-COVID. I think the PM painting the larger positive long-term image of India and how India is on the path of greater progress. And this is also a very, before the Lok Sabha election of 2024, I think a very confident PM and a very optimistic PM towards the BJP's chances also in the next election.
All right, Aman, please stay with us. We also have our senior editor, Pallavi Ghosh, with us on the story. Pallavi, do you think after the G20 summit, India will emerge as the Vishwamitra? Pallavi, am I audible to you?
That's right. Could you just repeat your question, please?
Pallavi, do you think after this G20 summit, India will emerge as the Vishwamitra?
See, the tagline of the G20 summit, as we all know, is one nation, one world, one future, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the whole world is one family. And India wants to see, India has had a tradition and heritage of, being hospitality, and where we consider the whole world, in a sense, to be one family. And if you look at the last 1 year, really, Anjali, of our entire G20 programs across the country, what is it that the message that they've tried to send out? That is, India's culture and heritage is something which cannot be undermined. And we see a synchronization of different beliefs, different cultures, all of it in one. And that is what India wants to teach to the world. When you talk about being Vishwamitra, or the friend of the world, I think, as we were talking about, the vaccine Maitri, in the hardest of times, which is the COVID time, India did not restrict its vaccine, to only to serving the Indians. We actually went it across to different countries, Maldives, Kenya, to name just some of them. In fact, there were many developed countries who actually thanked us. When you saw the health infrastructure crumbling in many of those countries, like in France, India was the first one to step out and help them. When you saw, for example, the earthquake which came in Turkey, large number of people died. The Prime Minister took that first step, and we have to help the people of Turkey, because that's what the idea of friend of the world is all about. Again, recently, Russia-Ukraine war, evacuation. It was not just limited to evacuating Indian students and people stranded in Ukraine, but also of many other countries as well. So this whole concept of Vishwamitra, as well as of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, is something which is the cardinal principle of the G20 summit. And when that begins from the 8th to the 10th, that's exactly what the Indian side is going to be harping about. We are told that their economic policies, social policies, all of them are being trashed out from today onwards when the Sherpa meeting begins. And in those policies, the point which India is going to be raising is that it is now one of the most challenging times in which the G20 summit is being held, and therefore no one can look at development in an isolated manner or in protectionism. We have to look at it in a holistic manner, and that's only possible if we think that the whole world is one and one family.
All right, Pallavi, please stay with us. Aman, coming back to you. So Prime Minister Modi has also made one big remark, saying that India will be a developed nation by 2047. All right, we'll try to reconnect with Aman. Pallavi, coming back to you. So, Prime Minister Modi has also stated that India will be a developed nation by 2047.
You look at the figures which has been put out by Pew survey recently, which gave a huge thumbs up, and also pointed out that at least 76% of the people in India, and in fact in the world, also think that India's stature has increased, and that of the Prime Minister as well. The Prime Minister has spoken about the $3 economy. He speaks also about the $5 trillion economy. So as far as the GDP figures that goes, the GST collection goes, our UPI transactions also go, it certainly has seen a huge upswing. And therefore, those who think India is backward or belongs to a developing country tag, that is something which India wants to point out to the world is completely unacceptable to us, because evidence and statistics provides a complete contradiction to this.